The resistance you feel towards starting any big task is not laziness. It's a scientific signal from your brain. This signal is designed to protect you, but it's the single reason your most important goals are incomplete. We'll show you the counterintuitive trick that eliminates this resistance immediately. You know that feeling, right? That feeling of dread, that internal wall you hit when you even think about starting that project or writing that report or finally cleaning out the garage. Well, that's not some kind of character flaw. It's actually a deeply ingrained primitive defense mechanism. Your brain is literally sounding an alarm, trying to protect you from what it sees as a threat, like overwhelm or potential failure, or just a whole lot of effort. The problem is, in our modern world, this protective instinct, it's completely backfired. It has become the #1 obstacle standing between you and the things you want to achieve.
And this right here really gets to the heart of it. It's not the work itself that's so tough. It's the monumental effort it takes just to begin. We think we need to find the motivation for a 3-hour marathon, and that thought alone is just exhausting. But what if that whole approach is just wrong? We're about to unpack a system that completely sidesteps this resistance. It's designed for one purpose and one purpose only: to make hitting that start button so easy, your brain doesn't even have time to put up a fight.
Okay, so here's our game plan for this explainer. First, we're going to decode that resistance signal so you know what it really is. Then, we'll dive into the science of avoidance to see the battle that's happening inside your brain. After that, we'll reveal the 10-minute breakthrough, which is the simple trick at the heart of this whole system. We'll show you how it hacks your brain chemistry, give you a clear 3-step action plan to use today, and finally, wrap it all up with the key to mastering your momentum. So let's start with part 1, the resistance signal. It is time to completely reframe how you think about procrastination. Seriously, this isn't about being lazy or undisciplined. It's about a biological response, one that's hardwired right into our DNA. So, what is really going on here? Well, that feeling of resistance, it actually has a name: initiation anxiety. It's a genuine emotional defense mechanism. See, when you face a large, kind of ambiguous task, your brain flags it as a potential threat. It could be a threat of failure, a threat of discomfort, or just the threat of burning way too much energy. In response, it floods you with the urge to avoid it and find some immediate comfort instead, like scrolling on your phone or watching another episode of that show. This isn't a failure of willpower. It's just your brain's ancient survival software running a program that is no longer helpful. Okay, so if it's a defense mechanism, what's happening on a scientific level? Well, that brings us to the science of avoidance. To really dismantle this response, we first have to understand the neurology, the actual battle playing out between two very different parts of your brain. Think of this internal battle as having two fighters. In one corner, you've got your limbic system. This is the emotional, ancient part of your brain. Its only job is to keep you safe and comfortable right now. It sees a big task and it just screams threat, avoid, find comfort. And in the other corner is your prefrontal cortex, the rational, modern part of your brain. It's the CEO, focused on logic, planning, and long-term goals. The problem is, when that initiation anxiety kicks in, the limbic system's emotional alarm is just so loud that it basically hijacks your prefrontal cortex, leading to total decision paralysis. And the scientific principle that explains exactly why the emotional brain almost always wins this fight is called temporal discounting. All this means is that your brain is wired to prefer a small reward now over a much larger reward later. The immediate comfort you get from not starting the task just feels more real and more valuable to your emotional brain than that distant, abstract satisfaction of maybe completing the project next month. Procrastination is simply the result of your brain choosing the guaranteed comfort of today over the uncertain reward of tomorrow every single time. And this is so important to understand. This is not you being weak. This is your brain chemistry at work. This cycle of feeling anxiety, avoiding the task, getting that brief moment of relief and then feeling guilty about it, it creates this powerful and addictive avoidance loop. It just reinforces itself over and over again, digging a deeper and deeper neurological trench that can feel absolutely impossible to climb out of. So how do we break it? Well, this brings us to the solution, the 10-minute breakthrough. Now, this isn't some vague motivational quote. It is a precise, simple, and incredibly powerful psychological intervention designed specifically to short-circuit that avoidance loop right at its source. The entire system revolves around this one single, completely non-threatening number: 10. 10 minutes. That's it. It's a commitment so small, so manageable, that it slips right past your brain's threat detection system. Your limbic system looks at the idea of 10 minutes and basically just shrugs and says, okay, that's not a threat. I can handle that. It doesn't trigger the alarm, it doesn't cause paralysis, and that is the entire secret. The framework's power is all in its simplicity. Step 1, you commit to working on the task for only 10 minutes. I don't mean at least 10 minutes, I mean just 10. Step 2, you set a timer. A physical one is great, but your phone works fine. And step 3, and listen, this is the most critical part. When that timer rings, you have full permission to stop. In fact, you must stop, at least for a moment. This rule is what makes the whole commitment believable to your brain. It removes all the pressure. So why on earth does this work so well? Well, it leverages a really powerful psychological trigger called the Zeigarnik effect. You see, our brains, they hate leaving things unfinished. Once you start that timer and you begin a task, you've opened a loop in your brain. You've created a little bit of tension. When the timer goes off, your brain wants to close that loop. It actually wants to continue. And just like that, the thought of stopping feels more uncomfortable than the thought of continuing. You've just completely flipped the script on your own brain chemistry. So we know what to do, but why does it work so darn well? Well, that's where we get into hacking your brain chemistry, understanding the mechanics that make this simple little rule so incredibly effective. Here's what's happening under the hood. By committing to just 10 minutes, you dramatically reduce the cognitive load on your prefrontal cortex. It doesn't have to wrestle with the overwhelming idea of a 3-hour project. It only has to manage one tiny 10-minute sprint. This conserves your precious mental energy, your battery power, for the actual work, not for the internal debate about whether you should work. It's a strategic move to bypass the limbic system's freak out and get your rational brain back in the driver's seat. This also comes down to the brain's reward chemical, dopamine. And there's a really critical distinction to make here. When you procrastinate by, say, scrolling through social media, you get a hit of what we'll call false dopamine. It's cheap, it's temporary, and it just makes you crave more distraction. It's like junk food for your brain. But when you complete a 10-minute sprint, you get a hit of earned dopamine. This is a high-quality reward that's tied to actual achievement. It's a small win that reinforces the behavior of starting, and it trains your brain to associate this task not with dread, but with a feeling of accomplishment. Okay, now for the most important part. Let's make this really practical. We're moving into your 3-step action plan. This is the pragmatic, step-by-step guide to putting this system into action the moment this explainer is over. First up, the micro-task breakdown ants anchor. I want you to pick that one task you've been dreading the most. Now, don't think about the whole thing, just identify the absolute smallest, most specific first step. Not work on the report, but open the document and write the title in just one sentence. That's your micro task. Then you anchor it to a habit you already do every day. This is called habit stacking. For example, after I finish my morning coffee, I will set a timer for 10 minutes to write that one sentence. This totally removes the guesswork and the decision making. Second, the non-negotiable 10-minute sprint. Set a physical timer if you can. It just makes the commitment feel more real. And for those 10 minutes, and only those 10 minutes, you give it 100% of your focus. No phone, no email, 0 distractions. And please remember the golden rule. When that timer rings, you stop. You have to honor this rule, especially in the beginning. It's what proves to your brain that this is a low-pressure, totally safe commitment. This is the core of the entire technique. And third, we have the momentum check. As soon as the timer goes off, you pause and ask yourself one simple question. How do I feel? If that Zeigarnik effect has kicked in and you feel that pull to continue, awesome. Set another 10-minute timer and go again. But if you still feel resistance, do not argue with yourself. Don't try to force it. Just stop and immediately pull out your calendar and reschedule the next 10-minute sprint for a specific time later in the day. This action keeps you in control and it prevents that initiation anxiety from creeping back in. All right, let's bring this all home. Mastering your momentum isn't about some complex productivity hack or a fancy new app. It's about understanding one simple, powerful philosophy that underpins this entire system. This right here is the single most valuable lesson you can take away today. The actual work is rarely as bad as we imagine it's going to be. The real enemy, the true obstacle, is the negative emotion and anxiety that's generated by the thought of starting. Procrastination is just an emotional coping mechanism for that feeling. So the 10-minute rule isn't really designed to help you do the task. It's designed to help you overcome the thought of the task. It's a strategic solution for an emotional problem. So just remember this. The anti-procrastination plan works because it solves the real problem, which is that initiation anxiety and emotional avoidance. What matters is that it gives you a low-friction system to finally break that resistance loop for good.
By defining a simple microtask and committing to that 10-minute sprint, you're using the Zeigarnik effect to create real momentum, and you're giving your brain that small hit of earned dopamine it needs to rewire itself for consistency. You stop waiting for motivation and you let momentum create it for you.
So here's the challenge. As soon as this is over, I want you to identify your most dreaded task, define your tiny microtask, and set a timer for just 10 minutes. Do it right now. Go see for yourself how quickly that avoidance loop shatters. Because true productivity, it isn't about forcing yourself to do more. It's about mastering systems that make focus feel effortless.